You to the provincial managers for their presentations as well. So Chairperson, I think it's pleasing to note that the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure are acknowledging, their shortfalls, in terms of one, that it takes time to do procurement, and secondly, that sort of they struggle, if I had their presentation, to find space, especially in the rural areas. So Chairperson, as I said in our last presentation, in the last previous meeting, is that the department then has put interventions in place, to ensure that we overcome these issues, whether it's in rural areas or whether it's this long-term procurement of property, which takes time within public works. And we've gone to this issue of going into the malls. For now, and now we've opened close to about 10 malls that are operating, and the malls sort of offer us, it resolves most of the issues which were mentioned by public works, also by provincial managers. The issue of inadequate space for both staff and our clients, access to people with disability, parking for our vehicles, and then one of the issues, Chairperson, that was noted in the province's presentation was the issue of security. The malls resolve the issue of security, Chairperson. So all we need from Public Works is that we've written sort of letters to them regarding Public Works granting the department that Section 18 exemption in terms of Kiama, where they will allow us then to expand, to more malls, to resolve these issues that have been presented. And also, if I can just touch on offices specifically that were presented by the provincial managers, is that we've written a letter in terms of Mossel Bay requesting from our Minister of Home Affairs to the Minister of Public Works requesting permission, to enter into a lease with the municipality in Mossel Bay. We've written the same for Atlantis as well. We are just waiting a response for that exemption. And also, we are going to be sending a letter on Riversdale and Hermanus, as was presented by Mr. Simon. So we're looking forward to getting those exemptions, Chairperson, to be able to go into those municipal offered space. And then when it comes to KZN, Chair, you'll notice that the presenter spoke about two projects. Projects in Stenga, which was started pre-COVID. I think that project was started in 2019. To date, Chairperson, is not completed. So the DG has written a letter to the Director General of Public Works requesting that that project of Stenga, including the one in Thoyando and the one in Randfontein, be transferred to the department, so that the department can then employ its own professional team and then its own contractors to finish these projects, because it's highly unlikely that they will be completed. Added to that is the one of Pulwa. Again, we're probably going to be dispatching a similar letter that maybe that project be handed over to Home Affairs to complete. Harding, Public Works have requested, Harding is a new project that requires a new office to be constructed. But I think management of Home Affairs have reached a point where I think there is a, I'm not going to call it trust deficit, but there is performance deficit, in terms of 3 projects started prior to 2019, they're still not completed. So the department has then not approved the Harding expansion. And then on Ulundi and Nongoma and the other areas, Chairperson, we have indeed again, it's in one letter where we've requested that Public Works grant us that permission, to continue with the malls project, and Ulundi, Nongoma offices will then be resolved, if we go to the malls. Then in the Eastern Cape, there is 3 offices which were mentioned by the presenter, the provincial manager, in terms of in Flagstaff. We are being the space where we're operating is too small. Adjacent to that, there is a mall, and that mall request is part of the letters that have been dispatched to Public Works to request permission to do the malls. Same with Tuikwa. At Tuikwa, we are currently operating at the Magistrate Court, and when Justice was renovating the court, we were then requested to vacate the premises. So currently we're operating on mobiles. Again, it's part of those exemptions that we are requesting from Public Works so that we can be able to deliver Flagstaff, including Umtata as well. We believe those should be relocated to the mall. So that will reduce also the strain that the Public Works is facing, so they can then assist us in focusing on other issues. But for immediate issue, the ones that I've just listed, Chairperson, if we can be granted those exemptions to talk to municipalities and also to enter into the malls. And then lastly, on the non-projects, we appreciate a response whether Public Works are indeed amicable to transferring those projects back to the department for completion, or alternatively, what strategies do they have to ensure that those projects are completed, at least in the current financial year. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thanks very much. Is there anything, ma'am? I see you raising your hand. Okay. Thanks. What we're going to do, we'll invite members. I'm going to allocate you 7 minutes. And once I tap this, you must know that your time is finished. So you are going to interact with the provincial managers and Public Works on the 3 matters. That's 7 minutes. What we don't want to do is that we ask questions, you come and respond later, we may finish at 10:11. So once Mukhale has been given, you specifically deal with those issues to yourself and you respond. And PM, you can delegate to your... Once you are done, including Public Works, once you are done, we invite the DGs, Sigama and the DG Mavuso, and the DG. And if we're lucky, the DM by that time will be here, will then summarize. If he's not there, the DG will take responsibility. But if the DM want to intervene in the period, you will alert us so that we do that. So I'm going to start on Matopa and on Kalipi, because they're going to plenary now. I'm saying it's my discretion. Yeah. On Matopa and then and Honorable Mkhalipi.
Thank you very much, Chair. Let me also just take this opportunity to greet our colleagues and also welcome this presentation. I will start with the KZN one, Chair, and thank you once more for giving me an opportunity to go first. The KZN presentation, Chair, highlights that, and it was like highlighted, that it was, even a statement was made that it should be highlighted that the office space, the women are occupying all these 4 managers' posts which are filled. We just want to thank also the department for that. However, Chair, once more, I do not see the challenges faced by public coming through these reports that were tabled. For instance, like all of the matters which are critical to and affecting the people on the ground are really not coming through on this particular report. In terms of the infrastructure issues, the long queues, occupational health and safety hazards, and as well as the downtime of the system affecting the queues. And I just also want to say that several officers are reportedly to be non-compliant. That's what reflected from the report. What's the plan and time frame to bring these officers into compliance? That is my first question I would like to table, and as well as coming to the prioritizing of the district manager positions, whereby we understand that no office can operate without a manager. And so these positions are prioritized. So what about the client-facing positions? Because they are equally important, and these posts are funded. If you go to these offices, people are overworked, they are drained, they are demoralized, yet these positions are funded. Why are they not filled with immediate effect? And then you come to
Okay, let me assist you, Honorable Matopa. She raised two issues, PM. You need to respond immediately, and Public Works time frame to respond so that she utilizes 7 minutes on engagement.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, Honorable Chair. Compliance to OHS by the offices. The situation is that the maintenance of the buildings that would lead to compliance to OHS is mainly by the landlords. So we raise these issues and we keep on raising them, as we have indicated that we are getting frustrated because there is non-response that comes from the landlords to actually deal with these issues. Hence, we have brought these offices that we have mentioned as part of the offices that are not meeting the compliance of the OHS, and that is our challenge, basically, at this particular point in time. On the issue of the positions that are funded, what has happened is that in the department, as the position, we had a moratorium in terms of the filling of the positions in the department due to budgetary constraints. However, the department is trying its best now to ensure that we submit to the staffing committee and request that the positions be funded, because those positions became unfunded as a result of the moratorium on the filling of the posts. So we are not necessarily focusing. We have started advertising the lower level posts that are supposed to be at the service delivery levels. So the last adverts that have gone out that do talk to those areas of responsibility. So it's not necessarily that we're actually focusing on the management side of things. There are those operational posts that are already being, we have started to advertise those posts. So we are in the process of filling some of them.
Thank you very much for that response, Chair. My second question would then be, with the Public Works on the landlords, I would make my remark there. And then with the deportation unit, it highlights on the slides, it talks about the accommodation and the travel. However, it does not outline much more of the staff component of this unit. What's the target versus the monthly achieved targets? And also you mentioned that the presentation highlights budget pressures affecting fleet capacity and deportation process. How will the department ensure that operational responsibilities, especially immigration enforcement, are not compromised? I'd like to pause there.
Thank you, Chairperson. As of October this year, we have been given 3 positions for the deportation unit that is now for the province. One is this control immigration officer, plus 2 immigration officers. And we have also been capacitated in terms of the vehicles for deportation. So we are currently managing to take people directly to either to the borders through the direct deportation and also transfers to Ilindela. That is why we have seen quite an improvement in terms of the number of deportations that KZN has performed. So that is the complement, basically. And even though we can say that they may not be enough, we are still going to we are getting another 10 immigration officer positions that would be advertised, that is allocated to KZN. And we are also going to see if we can be able to capacitate that particular unit in the province.
Thank you very much. And with the deportation, you're saying 2,141 are deported to Lindela. Are they just deported to Lindela, and then what happens after?
Yes. As I've indicated, Honorable Member, deportation happens in 2 ways. We've got direct deportation. That is to the neighboring bordering countries. That is where we do direct deportation. When we have got to take people to Lindela, we don't normally call it deportation because the process is never finalized from the province side. We transfer to Lindela, which is our holding facility, pending the deportation to various countries which are not bordering our province. So the number that we have given are the people that have been transferred from KwaZulu-Natal to the Lindela Holding Center, which is in Gauteng, for the purposes of finalizing the deportation by Lindela. That is how we do it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Chair, I would just club this two together so that I go to the Western Cape.
7 minutes
Is it done? Thank you.
it's done. Madam Khalif,
Thank you very much, Chair.
we'll
Chair,
come back to,
yes, I must apologize because I need to rush.
you don't need to apologize, Madam Khalif, proceed.
No, I mean,
On your behalf.
I mean that I can leave the meeting in the middle.
I've already done it, I've already.
Oh, okay, thanks, Chair. Chair, my question is also goes to KZN because I'm from there, Chair. The first one is about deportation that was presented here. I just want to need a breakdown. How many Africans, how many Europeans, how many Asians, like that, to see if the department is not targeting the black Africans in South Africa, DM. Secondly, the DNA issues, I know it does not go specifically to KZN, to you, DM. It's a very problematic subject, it's a topical subject, Chair. People are suffering, they can't afford to do the DNA. So therefore, I would like to know from the department, how do you address this issue? Manager of KZN, the interviews, there is a backlog on the interviews regards to the late birth registration. So how do you address that? Are you also delegating this function to also to the managers at a lower level? The last one, Chair, the banks, because there's a lot of queues, and the manager of the Western Cape also spoke about it, that he's also frustrated. So which banks that also can be utilized in the KZN, especially in Metro, in Durban Metro? And the schools that needs intervention in terms of applying for the birth and for the IDs, how do they follow, I mean, the proper procedures? Because we got a lot of those issues from the schools, from Ottawa, to mention the few. So how do you deal with it? The last one. So the last page on your presentation, there's a list of managers. So can you also share with the committee so we can benefit? Because lately it's very difficult to get hold of you in KZN, particular as a provincial manager. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. I think DDG Sigama, you've noted the DNA matter. Thank you. PM.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. On the deportation, the statistics have been indicated in terms of our report, and the common nationalities that we experience a high number from is the Malawians and some Pakistanis. With regards to the other races, in some instances there is also what we call self-deportation, and mostly the other races would then be indicating that they would be able to do a self-deportation where the person is required to buy a ticket for the plane, also, and be accompanied by a migration officer that would board a plane from KZN right up to OR Tambo and hand over that particular person who's self-deporting to get out of the country. So that is why you won't be able to see quite a number of other races that would be there. But the prominent ones would be the Malawians, that have been quite a number of them that we have been deporting. On the issue of the interviews delays, the department had started to relook at the standard operating procedure for the LRBs 15 years and above. And once we are in that particular process, as a province, we have gone into a proxy kind of arrangement where we delegate to the district manager operations to try and deal with the backlog on the LRBs on the 15 years and above, which is my category. So the district manager operations have been now given to proxy sit and adjudicate on those cases as from now on. So that is how we have planned to try and reduce the backlog on the late registration of birth. On the issue of the banks, we have got 3 banks that are operational in the province so far, which was Kingsmead, Standard Bank Kingsmead. We've got Nedbank in the Durban North area, and also FNB in the Konopia Mall. So those are the 3 banks that we have currently in the province. We would like to expand to other banks, but however, the process is subject to our facilities management being able to identify those banks where we can expand to. It's not necessarily within the competency of the province to identify the banks in that particular instance. What are we doing about the schools projects? How do we help the schools? We have got a memorandum of agreement with the municipality of eThekwini, and that MOU, or memorandum of understanding, that MOU was signed, was renewed somewhere in November the last year, and through the municipality, we make arrangements, community participation of the municipality of eThekwini. They identify schools where there are kids that are at the level of eligibility for the IDs, and they bring those learners to the office, especially over the weekends. They make arrangements with us, especially the Umgeni office. They bring them through the volunteers that are there. The municipality has given us volunteers who are going out into the communities and identify areas that need our attention. It helps us both in the sense of us understanding where the need is in terms of our mobile outreach, as we sometimes do go to the schools, but through the municipality, they do bring the learners to us and we assist them from the office. There is that kind of an arrangement. And the list of the contacts, it is available. It was part of the presentation as we submitted to the members. Thank you, Chairperson.
Fine, Madam Karipo, still have time?
No, thanks very much, Chair. I'm not satisfied in regards to the list of people who have been deported. I think the department must have records, so we can satisfy ourselves that there's no targets to the Black Africans in the department. Thanks, Chair.
Okay. Thanks very much. We'll now start that side and we'll end with Honorable Ngubane. Honorable Disimsa? No, the DNA matter will be responded by DDG Sikama. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Let me not waste time in acknowledging the members in the House. I'll start with the Eastern Cape. It is of great concern that the province is operating at a 34% capacity on the human resource. And can they indicate how are they able then to provide services to the entire province if their staff capacity is at 34%? It means in other areas you are having as little as 4%, 3%, less than 10% of staff capacity, and it means that services then are impacted greatly. But they can kindly expand and say how are they able to manage, and what plans do they have in place with regards to the waiting time in those offices. On slide 16, can the province also explain, they say under salary level 4, where the functional structure is 52, and the filled positions are 0, as well as 0 vacancies. What do you mean by that? That you have a requirement of 52 vacancies or positions, but you are operating on 0 filled. We have a 52 positions that are a requirement, but the office is operating at a 0 filled vacancy and 0 staff being filled. On slide 30, you also make mention of something that, what is the meaning of failure to safeguard state-generated resource? Does that mean that there is money theft? And if so, is there a criminal case that has been pursued? And lastly, on the Eastern Cape, there's a 31% of uncollected smart IDs, and they've been there for more than a year. specifically in the area of Nelson Mandela and Sarah Bartman. Approximately, we are having 7,000 or more of those smart IDs. Why have you not implemented yet the ward-based collection campaign for you to be able to speed up the collection and with taking into consideration that 2026 is a year of local government elections, it means that the backlog will pile up. And lastly, Chair, the Mthatha office condition is in poor conditions. And I've heard the presentation from DPWI made no mention of this office, but there would have been, the province would have made mention that there's a plan to move to a mall. What then becomes the excessive rental cost to move the office to a mall in that area compared to doing renovations to that government building that exists?
Thank you. PM, Eastern Cape.
Thank you, Chair. The question on the staff capacity that the province is actually operating at less than 35% of staff capacity. Currently, the civic services, which is the front line, is basically adequately capacitated. It's not at the rate at which it should be capacitated. The cohort that we're currently struggling with is administration, largely in the offices as well as the provincial office. So with the posts that we've currently prioritized, obviously it's that of the supervisory capacity as well as management capacity. We have identified also posts that are frontline related, and those will also be advertised, have been advertised, but the staffing committee, basically at some point we then have to identify other posts depending on the availability of funds. So at the current moment, the large cohort that is currently vacant, it's the administrative staff. As for how we then complement the services and support the frontline staff that is also understaffed, is that we would complement our services with the overtime that we currently have, but also using our mobile units to support some of the offices that are unable to meet the demand. Now, the issue on the salary level 4, that particular level or cohort of officials was responsible for fingerprints, taking of fingerprints. And with the current move by the department to modernization as well as digitization, that particular cohort of staff was never funded. Now, the modality that we're currently using, it would mean that an official will basically process the entire value chain of the service offering. So would not necessarily need that particular official to then take fingerprints and move to the next step. So that was not funded, and at the moment we then have the frontline officials undertaking that responsibility under the model that we are currently using. The safeguarding of state resources, this act included an official, basically entailed an official who basically did not bank the revenue that was collected and failed to actually undertake the necessary standard operating procedures, and was therefore charged for that particular omission in terms of their responsibilities. So the state resources, we are referring to revenue collected in that regard. Uncollected IDs, under Nelson Mandela and Sarah Bartman. In the presentation towards the end, as part of our strategies to prepare for local government elections, I've referred to the strategy for us to be able to then distribute our uncollected IDs. We've engaged with various municipalities, we've engaged with various ward councillors, as well as community development workers through COCTA. We are facilitating that process also as well with IEC, as I had indicated that we have met with IEC as part of the provincial task team on the local elections. We are also meeting with IEC in the next month that is a drive that we are implementing. We have also then undertaken a drive that we will then be monitoring the redistribution as a build-up towards the local elections. The excessive rental costs, Chair, may I then request that as part of the response by DPWI, to then respond to that. Thanks.
Thank you. Can we check that one, Public Works? Oh, sorry, Ngasana?
Thank you, Chair. So the question is of course benefit, on moving that old office that we have, Honourable Member. Unfortunately, we've together with Public Works, we've looked at renovating that office. In fact, years back, before 2016, 17, we did do some work. Unfortunately, the building is one of those listed buildings. You can't configure it, you can't touch it without getting permission from the Heritage Council. So hence, there's no work that can be done in the building as it is. So the next step that we did then was to look at if there's any state-owned properties around Umtata that we could sort of renovate and unfortunately we couldn't find that as well, Honourable Member. However, on malls that we've had, one of the strategies or negotiations that we do with them is basically that we don't want to be charged a market rental, because we bring people into the mall. So in some malls, some of them are not charging us at all. Others, they're just charging us nominal rental, and then we pay for rate for water, electricity, etc. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, last questions?
Thank you very much, Chair. On KZN, you have reported that the lack of staff at the connected hospitals results to 0 to 30-day birth registrations being lost. Now, what are you doing then to recover, or what is your recovery plan to capture those unregistered births? And also, you've reported as well on the uncollected green barcoded IDs. They are seated around 2.9 at Amajuba, and I'm sure around the province it could be more. Why then are you still holding on to the green barcoded IDs when there's a national campaign with regard to smart IDs? And what then is your plan to systematically destroy those green barcoded IDs so that then you can encourage people to apply for smart IDs? And on the Western Cape, Chair, I'll be quick. I think that Bab's challenge is very concerning, and it really cannot be left unattended. You really need to have a collaborative way with the SAPS and ensure that you expedite the investigations around that, and so that you can then find the culprit, because really indeed it is the people that are suffering and that are being scammed their monies. And the Atlantis mobile offices, you've made mention that you're mitigating measures where that you moved them into a hall in the community and you are utilizing mobile offices. What are the security measures? Because part of the challenges, it is the gangs or the gangs or the crime. So it means that still when you are utilizing the mobile offices, the gangs would still access that area. What security measures have you put in place? And on the Hemarnas office, it has been reported that you are operating at 0 staff as well, despite that being it's an urban area, and it means you should be providing significant services to the people in the area. And lastly, I comment just on the DPW. I have a lot of issues, but I'll just summarize it. It really it's not enough, Mr., for you to say you acknowledge the challenges with DPW. We don't want acknowledgement, we want solutions, we want actions, because largely the challenges that these provinces are facing with regards to their facilities, they are with you. And you are the ones who are project managers, I would put it in that way. So it is not enough that you'd come and acknowledge. We need you to help the Department of Home Affairs and understand that it's a very significant department that provides services to people, and ensure that you get the facilities correct. And where you are unable to, I think it's okay, and I think one of the officials, they made mention that maybe some of the work or the projects, allow the departments to take care of them. And we understand that you are a project manager to all departments, government departments, and you have a huge backlog, and really you are not assisting.
Okay.
And lastly, Chair, the issue of the presentation here the lady Wendy made, you are mentioning that most of the offices are fair and that most of them are in good conditions. I want to tell you that that is not true. The offices and the state of facilities in these buildings that you are supposed to be taking care of are really in a poor state. Thank you, Chair.
I'm going to request Western Cape, KZN and Public Works before we invite Honorable Mukhale. Western Cape?
Thank you very much, Honourable Member, for those questions. The first one about the BAP system, it's really a challenge. We have identified the culprit. I have his name, but which I won't mention here, and that's why we opened the criminal case. We are engaging, yesterday we also engaged with the police to make sure that this one is fast-tracked for us as well. Because we've communicated with this person, but he continues with his practice. So it's an ongoing battle we have, and on the back end, the IS, our IT team, is also looking at reviewing the BAP system so that we block him from doing these bookings and then selling them. So that is ongoing. We're taking that seriously, Honourable Member. On the Atlantis area, so we have moved away from the gangsterism area that we were at. We're at a different area now, at a different mall. It's called, the hall is called Avondale Community Hall. And we also pay a booking price to use that facility on a Tuesday and a Thursday. And that comes with pollution facilities, waiting area, chairs, security for the mall, and all of that. So we're in more secure space at Avondale Mall as well. Then just on Hermanus, Honourable Member, we have not, so the structure shows 3 staff, but because we don't have an office yet, we don't have staff. That's why the percentage is 0. So we have secured a building, but we are now, as Mr. Nklasana has indicated, engaging Public Works on a possible lease for that building. The municipality has also volunteered to give us contract workers from their budget if we bring some Home Affairs officials there as well. So it's still an ongoing project, Honourable Member. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. KZN?
Thank you very much, Chairperson. On the issue of what are we doing about the gap that is identified as a result of the non-availability of staff in the hospitals to ensure early birth registration? It is a known fact that we've got about 47 connected health facilities, and I've only got 13 appointed permanent staff for those health facilities. So as a province, when we were allocated some vehicles in this financial year, we received about 7 vehicles as a province. What I then came up with was that we need to allocate each district with a vehicle, which is my 5 districts in terms of how we are arranged. And they had also to ensure that they appoint a person that is going to do the roaming between these hospitals. And it seems to be yielding positive results because the performance in Q4 seems to have picked up because we are using that roaming arrangement where they are utilizing the newly acquired vehicles that are actually assisting in terms of making sure that we cover these hospitals the way we do not have staff. But we've also submitted as well to the staffing committee the need for the filling of the vacancies for these other hospitals. So that is how we have put in place as a mitigating factor in the province. On the issue of the green barcoded IDs, yes, it is noticeable that there would be those green barcoded IDs that are in the offices which are no longer producing which are no longer taking applications of green barcoded IDs. Most of the offices are already on a modernized version. So those IDs have been lying in our offices, and we are busy pushing now for the destruction of those IDs, and we're working with our head office towards the disposal, the destruction instructions on those IDs, because they've been lying there in those offices, and we are no longer taking applications for green barcoded IDs. It is a matter that is receiving attention, Honourable Member. Thank you.
DDG Mavus Sigama. DDG Sigama? No, I'm making a point. I will request you to also respond on that matter. Public Works?
Thank you very much to the honorable member there for the issue around the acknowledgement. I think I said that as an opening remark, and I believe that the best way to deal with the problem is to first acknowledge that it's a problem. But in terms of the actual details, I had then requested my colleague to take us through each of those challenges that have been raised. But I do note that it is indicated that it is not correct where we said fair, but you'll see that that fair not only comes from us, even the client itself, in terms of those specific properties, they would say there are no challenges in terms of their conditions, they remain fair. However, we will go back and actually check those specific and just re-verify and then come back and report on that. Thank you.
Honorable Mokhale?
Thank you very much, Chair.
Honorable Mokhale,
Okay.
I think the DM, you may need to note in the DG the matter of sharing powers around the infrastructure area. I just want you to note it so we don't forget it, how we think we must collectively assist each other.
No, thank you very much, Chair. I want to shoot straight. Chairperson, the Department of Public Works is failing Home Affairs in a very big way. It's very clear based on the presentations that we have received here, and we want them to know that we are not happy with what the Public Works has been doing. When you say a building is failing to meet the OHS standard, you are telling us that employees are subjected to very bad working conditions, where aircons are not working, buildings are leaking, there's a poor state of conditions in those buildings. And we are saying employees of the state must go and work there and do their work and excel. We are saying the public must come into those buildings to receive services. We're expecting people of South Africa, South African citizens, to come into a dirty building with dirty toilets to come and receive services. And we say we care about the people of this country. We don't care. That's what the Department of Public Works is demonstrating to us, Chairperson, that they don't care about the employees of the state, they don't care about the South African citizens who are supposed to receive services in those buildings. In the presentations we have received, Chairperson, we saw, particularly on the Eastern Cape, it was highlighted the conditions, or this one is fair, is poor, is good. But for KZN and the Western Cape, we don't have that information that will help us to determine if those particular buildings are indeed in excellent or in good conditions. So that's one thing that I noted. Chairperson, I want to find out from our facility manager in the department, is Mr. Ngasan, whether he has visited these buildings, particularly the ones that have been reported by the PM in KZN, that they are in bad condition. Whether he has visited these buildings and he submitted a report, when did he do that, and what has been the response from the Department of Public Works? That's my first question.
Mr. Ngasana?
Thank you, Chair. Honorable Mokhale, unfortunately, I'm from KZN, so I know the buildings, So I've been, I've got a list here. So I've been to Pietermaritzburg. Let's start the Chairperson, which was the top one. So Pietermaritzburg office, it's a three-story building, if I'm not mistaken. So on the ground floor and the first floor, that's where we do services. It's a bad building. I've been to the building, and I can share with the committee, I've got volumes of letters that have been written to Public Works for the past 15 years. So Public Works have gone to the market, chairperson, to advertise that building, and we've come back to Public Works and that, why you keep on advertising? Because the advertisement doesn't work, you know. And then the defense is that in Maritzburg, there is one landlord that owns almost 80% of the town. So if they try to come out of that landlord, then he bids for that building. Stenga, chairperson, I've been there.
You don't need to go through all of them. I'm satisfied with the response.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's me that must call you. Because I have a responsibility. I'm taking notes here. Yeah, so he's not supposed to call to stop you. I will do that. Yes. Are you done, Mr.? Yeah, because
Okay, Chair,
let me assist you also in Public Works. What the committee is trying to establish is the timelines and reporting responses in terms of maintenance of this building. That is the crux of the question. And that is cited the example of a KZN. And I think we've captured it proper that at least some of the offices, they ran out to 15 years. I'm not sure that's an accurate period. But if that is a standard example, we can then work on it when we deal with Public Works. Thank you. Mr. Mohan. Honorable Mohan, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. I got it. Well, I get Matisana go Chair. Thank you, Chair. On this thing of moving to malls, Chairperson, it sounds like a good idea. It's a stopgap measure. It's an interim measure. I find it very difficult, Chairperson, that in a town like Mthatha, we have been to Mthatha as the committee, we're from there. We've been to Mthatha. That Home Affairs must now move to a mall because they can't find a publicly owned building or any other building that they can list there. There's a post office there in Mthatha. We saw that post office. It's locked. It's not working. And it's not just in Mthatha. It's in many other towns across South Africa where there are publicly owned buildings. Whether they fall under the post office or, but the fact is they are owned by the government, by the state. Why are we not utilizing those buildings? Because, Chairperson, once we agree that in every situation now we are running to the malls, we are leaving those small towns and we are running to the malls, Chair. We are slowly, Chairperson, contributing towards the decline of our towns and cities by moving away these, because those things, those buildings, they keep the economy of each of those small towns very active. So what is the impact when now we're going to be running away into malls in every town and city? I want to come to the issue of the travel to Lindela that was raised by the PM here in the Western Cape. You complain that you are spending a lot of money in terms of ferrying people from here, taking them to Lindela. Why do we need to take people from here to Lindela? Why can't they be processed here and then deported to their respective countries? Because, I mean, traveling from here to Lindela is over 1,000 kilometers by road, and you have to do those trips now and again. Of course, it's going to hurt your pocket.
Yeah.
Thank you, Honorable Mogali. So I think as the PM KZN has indicated, Lindela is a transit facility. So we do direct deportations to Honorable Mogali, particularly to Namibia and to Lesotho. But when we have, because we have different nationalities, the breakdown is Zimbabweans, Malawians, we even have Chinese as well. So if there is them, we take to Lindela, which is a holding facility, and some of them need chartered flights as well. Some of them go on buses out of the country. So it's a central point Probably immigration, if they were here now, they would explain, the manager of Lindela as well, why they are kept there. And then once the numbers indicate that either a chartered flight or a bus or whatever is required, then they are taken from that point. But others, we do direct deportations. There are those, for example, last week, 3 Chinese persons were giving us flight tickets for direct deportation. Some deport themselves, and then we take them out of Cape Town International Airport. But many of them, if we have 6 or 7, for example, Nigerians, we take them to Lindela. Once the number for the number of Nigerians reaches a certain number, then they require a chartered flight, etc., and then take them out of the country. Honorable, I hope I'm answering you.
Okay, noted. Public Works, about post office and related matters.
Thank you very much, honorable members. The case being mentioned around the post office is actually a sore issue on our side. We actually do have an office. If you look at the report, the case Kamahuk office is in a post office building. However, the post office treats us like a regular tenant. We don't have the normal relationship as in a state-to-state relationship. So even in that building, we tried to even procure it, to purchase it, but their response was non-affirmative. So we are trying those options to look at all available state facilities. But I think with the issue with the post office is that they are undergoing a liquidation process. So all their matters are kind of tied up. Their property pool is tied up there. But I acknowledge what you are raising, Honorable Member, that we are trying as much as possible to stick within the CBDs, but in most of the small towns, it is a problem that we find almost everywhere, that there are no state properties. So we are working on that. In some of the areas, we are looking at developing at least precincts for government use, so that in the future we will then move out of the leasing from private landlords. That is the ultimate goal for Public Works, but it is taking long. We do acknowledge that, because we have to first secure land, do all the planning, but the ultimate goal is that from now, in the next 5 or so years, we start changing the picture from a high list to a more state-owned facility, kind of occupation for our departments, because we can see it's not sustainable to continue on a private landlord lease, especially for clients like Home Affairs, because you will forever need a Home Affairs office in the towns, exactly where people are easily accessing. So we are noting that, Chairperson, and we are working on a plan to try and move out of the leasing. But I must indicate, Chair, that plan requires capital budgets, which are part of the challenge of limiting us to say, let us now look at what we can do. We are also looking, I'm just stating this, Chair, at even our portfolio of properties that are not necessarily commercial, that can be converted into some of the offices, especially in areas where you do not need a large size office. In the small towns where the office would be a little bit smaller, we are looking at our portfolio to see which ones can be then converted to house departments. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Honorable Makhale, the last slot, and then Honorable Jama. Just to ask you, who holds the portfolio of rental? Is it Public Works or Home Affairs? Who will take responsibility on funding the rentals, if I may, just clarity on that area?
The normal process is that Home Affairs would instruct us to look for accommodation in certain areas. But in some of the areas, like some of the malls, Home Affairs at times they would do it themselves. So, but the normal process would be it comes to Public Works, then we go out and look for a property.
All right.
Honorable Makhale, then I invite Honorable Jam.
All right. No, thank you, Chair. Chairperson, my last few question and comment. Chair, the staffing issues in all the provinces that have presented here, it's very clear that they are severely understaffed. And that is a serious problem. And, you know, we're engaging with Honorable Rose outside there to say that, but if these guys are saying that they are severely understaffed like this, but how are they meeting their targets when they are saying that they are understaffed? You are understaffed, but you are meeting your targets. Yeah, it's a very interesting issue. So, Chairperson, we really need a serious intervention in the issues of staffing in the departments. And I thought that maybe the use of technology would also mitigate the chronic understaffing that the department is currently faced with, where some of these offices should be, you know, such that they what is that model that Msimang, you spoke about last time? The Epping model. Yeah, that is the model that should be rolled out across the whole country, because it cuts down all of these, it addresses a lot of these staffing challenges that might be facing some of these provinces, Chair. So that's a comment that I wanted to make around the issues of staff. Chair, the issue of the East London office, where they moved from the town, they moved to the mall. What is happening with the previous office? Because we are told the people are still going there at the previous office in town. The people are still going to that previous office. Why are we not having another office? Because it's clear that there's a demand for a home affairs office even in town. Even after you have moved there to the mall, but people are still presenting themselves at the previous office. And it can't be just an intervention of bringing that mobile truck and not thinking, you know, long term. Should we not have a second office in town? It might be a smaller office, but just an office that will be able to attend to the issues of the people. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Makhale, Eastern Cape, and then Honorable Jam.
Chair, I will request the Director of Finance and Support to respond on the issue of the current state of the office, Fleet Street. Ma'am.
Thank you, Director of Finance.
Good afternoon, Chairperson. Good afternoon, members of the committee. Good afternoon, Deputy Minister, DG, and the DGs and colleagues. The state of the office in Fleet Street is in East London. Is that the office is now empty. We've vacated, except for 2 items that we still need to collect, which is the generator and the UPS, and thereafter the landlord will have the building for himself. Thank you, Chairperson.
I think if you have understood the committee, is that people are still presenting themselves to the office. I may not be certain on the issues. Yeah, that was second question around that subject matter.
My apologies. The communication, we did have a drive and put up a big banner for the community to move. We've had a lot of engagements with the taxi associations, and in each and every taxi they've even opened new routes from the surrounding areas in East London that take the public into Hemingways. So there was a huge preparation before we moved. We did have engagements also with the mayor, the speaker in the Buffalo City Metro, in preparation for the move to Hemingways. So there has been a drive, even in the Hemingways social media. They've also pasted an ongoing indication of the move of the office to Hemingways. We still have a security sitting in that building in Fleet Street that directs the public to Hemingway's. So there is still a way for the public to know where the office is and moving.
DG Mavus, I want you to note only that matter when you respond. Can you cover the, also add on the issue? Because I know that that matter arises when we receive a presentation, when the minister was here and yourselves. So if you can add, DM.
No, thank you, Chair. As indicated, unfortunately, I have to deal with the member statement, but just a few issues that I think we must deal with. Around the issue of staffing, the problem, Chair, and I think members of the committee will remember, it's about the cap. The cap in terms of spending that you must not go beyond, as set out by Treasurer, and then it goes back to affect the number of posts that you can fill and so on and so on. And that is why our digital strategy places less reliance on physical people and more reliance on the digital spaces, which means that as we grow our capacity, we'll leverage on technology. Currently, right now, Chair, and through you, Chair, Honorable Mokhal, we have to pay overtime. We have to get the youth to volunteer. We have to set up the days of special days like Women's Day in order for us to make targets. We've been really hard on the team in terms even on early bird registration, hitting hard so that they even open up on weekends, drive to certain areas. That's how we are actually meeting the target. On the issue of DNA, it is a real concern for all of us. We have engaged the Department of Health. I engaged personally with the former Deputy Minister of Health to say that for those who are indigent, probably we might have to look at making the service free for them, but that's an issue that Department of Health will then have to take a decision on. We are working on regulations, Chair, and I think we had reported to the committee on reviewing regulations around birth registration. That will also impact on the issue of DMOs overall, being able to sign off and process the interviews, which will mean they will not need to wait for the provincial manager alone, but you will have district managers able to be in control of that environment. And obviously, it will come with sensitivity and strong internal control measures as we delegate those issues. The abuse on the IT system, on the booking systems, it's a reality. In as much as Mr. Simons will deal with it at the front end, but IT is working on system releases that will be able to deal with those issues. On the issue of Public Works, Chair, Public Works sources and the Department of Home Affairs pays. So if there is an infrastructure, if there is a rental, we pay the rental, but they have to source. And I think we must make it very clear. It's not that we are oblivious on the circumstances on the ground. And I was reflecting with Mr. Ngasana that 2020, 2021, myself and him went to the Pinetown office where we were promised by Public Works that in the next weeks, we are going to get the office. That office till today is not there. I had to call municipal officials that I had to go with there. We physically saw the office even went inside, and then 2 weeks later, that did not happen, and we were told, no, there was a bit of a problem. So it is a challenge, and we really need we support the model that says probably Public Works must give us the authority to be able to look for these buildings ourselves and deal with those issues ourselves within Home Affairs so that we can be completely responsible and account on something that we have the power on in the portfolio committee. We have had models that work. If you look at the post office building in Silverton, it has worked because we took over the building, we had to set it up, the building, it worked, it works right now. That's why we are doing the digitization of records. So we're not talking about something that we will not have seen before. Just like, lastly, Chair, if I can be out of order, we have Mr. Simons here. He's on his last 20 days with the department. Dedicated servant for years. Been with the department, if I'm not mistaken, since the late 90s, 1998, with the department. Started off and now is a provincial manager, and I really think that we need to appreciate. I'm just saying that because he was making the presentation to us, probably one of the last presentations, just to display that we still have good civil servants within the department that do their work. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, DM. We know that you'll be leaving. We'll invite him formally to thank him. Thanks, Honorable Jama.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, not to waste time, I think I'll just go into the presentations. I want to start on this Hemingways and Fleet Street issue since we were here. It wasn't my intention to go province by province, line by line, because I think some of the issues are cross-cutting. But it was mentioned by Public Works that we've moved to the malls because most of the small towns don't have government buildings. So I'm from East London. That's where I grew up, right? Now, East London is Buffalo City Metro. It's a metro, right? That's not a small town. And yet the decision to move from Fleet Street to Hemingway's Mall was made, right? So already we can say the reasoning, I need more reasoning, Chair, on why the moves from, town, central business districts to the malls, because the one that has been given to me doesn't ring true in the case of East London, for example. Fleet Street is in the central business district. Hemingway's is suburbia. There's nothing else around that mall except for the mall itself. And when we say that there's a security guard that's been placed there to tell people that they can go there, that's an additional 13 Rand or 16 Rand. They're not next to each other. So when you say someone who's made a trip to get Home Affairs services and you say, well, there's a security guard there that will tell them where to go, that's not sufficient for me. That's extra transportation, and we're trying to do the opposite, right? So I have an issue there, Chair, that I'd like clarity on why did we make the move? Because clearly it wasn't for the ease of citizens. And two, there isn't a legal matter. I think I read something on Daily Dispatch. There's a legal matter between the former landlords and yourselves. What is that about? What is the matter? What is the sense of disagreement? So I think, Chair, we need to really zoom into the Fleet Street Hemingway situation, because I think it becomes a microcosm for a lot of the issues that were cut crossing. I think we need to zoom in on that. I'm not sure where exactly my question was. I think there were about 3 of them there. I think I can stop there.
Eastern Cape. Zago DTG, we still focus on your team. You'll add where there are issues to Sambema.
All right. Particularly, one of the reasons would have been the safety around the area, which was one of the issues that members of the public also raised. Secondly is the issue of parking, which was also one of the issues that members of the public raised. The space within the office itself, and also other issues in terms of OHS. Now, the challenge that we're currently facing with some of the offices in general, if I may go that way, is those 3 issues that I've just mentioned. And the move to Hemingway's was also to address that. But in Mr. Ngasana's comment as well, it was around the rental as well. Some of the rentals, we are then afforded an opportunity not to pay, but rather go for rates and taxes and not the leases in terms of the price. Now, what was said was that the arrangement when we then started with the move to Hemingway's, there was a build-up towards that, like the director indicated. There was communication and engagement with members of the public, with stakeholders, like she indicated, the mayor, the speaker. There was a build-up. The interim solution that we had in place was to ensure that there's business continuity, that we do not break the service at the time when we then moved. The security at the moment is there because we are finalizing we're basically taking everything that has got to do with Home Affairs, and then the building will be handed over to the landlord. Now, the current situation that we find ourselves in, we are therefore protecting whatever is there in that building. That is why we've got a resident security in the building. However, once we have handed over the building, we will then be able then to release our security personnel out of that particular office.
What is the legal challenge currently in court between yourselves and your former landlord at Fleet Street?
Mr. Ngasana will deal with that because the matter is sub judice. Thanks.
Okay, you can proceed if you're done.
PM, while we're still on you, earlier the whip here raises the 34.89 capacity on human resources, and you said you are of the view that the frontline staff is adequately capacitated. I wanted to understand from you, no, that's incorrect? So you had said we have an issue with the administrative staff, but in terms of the frontline staff, it's adequately capacitated. That was your response to.
May I then clarify? Sorry. May I then clarify? The cohort that we currently have, a high level of vacancies is on administration. With the frontline staff, we are not having high levels of vacancies. However, there are vacancies in that regard.
Could you quantify that for me? So when you say it's not a high level of vacancies, what percentages are we speaking there in terms of frontline staff at your home affairs?
It's in the presentation. I can refer you to the slide.
So we quoted on our side why we feel as though there's a staffing issue, and you said that there isn't really a staffing issue because it only exists within the administrative staff. But when it comes to frontline workers, and I'll say why I'm saying this, right? So it then paints a picture where you feel as though you don't have queues, maybe, because if you say that we don't have high numbers of frontline staff, that then means we wouldn't have any sort of queues or anything. So I'm assuming outside of East London is the only one I've ever been to, and even that was Fleet Street. I'm assuming then in the Eastern Cape we can go anywhere and we won't have long queues because the PM says our capacity issues as it relates to human resources only exist in the administrative sort of field. But frontline, look, there are vacancies here and there, but we don't really have a problem. Is that correct?
You can proceed, ma'am.
Thank you. I wanted to refer you to the slide. If you were to then refer to page 17, under the human capacity per district, if you look at the top row, the second row from the top, we then have against the approved structure, we've got 990 civic services officials. And then looking into the warm bodies, we've got 443. That's about 50% of the civic services, which would have been the front line. Then if you basically go to the support structure, we've got 405. And with support in terms of warm bodies, we've got 102, meaning about 25% of the administrative staff is available and 50% of the civic staff is available. So my response was comparative to the numbers that we currently have. We do have inadequate staff in the front line. However, comparative to the support staff in terms of the presentation, that was my reference.
No problem. Thanks, PM.
Thanks.
Just the last one for Eastern Cape. Do your offices register and distribute marriage certificates in particular for customary marriages? Is that a service
That is last lot. You can proceed.
That's
And I'll invite Mr. Mavuso. He seemed to be want to respond on one matter. You can proceed, ma'am, before he comes here.
Okay. Once a marriage is registered in our offices, we are able to print a marriage certificate. Let's say one has registered, they have had a customary marriage and they present themselves to our offices, then we follow the due processes and we are able to issue a certificate.
Let me rephrase. So are you able to, do you register? So not someone who has registered now wants to reprint or print for a second time. I'm asking, in the Eastern Cape, do your offices register and print marriage certificates for those who have had customary marriages?
Yes, we do. Upon registration of that particular letter of the customary marriage, We recognize the letter of customary marriage. However, that needs to be registered within our offices.
Okay.
So our protocols is that one would then have to come in and we register that particular marriage.
Okay. Can you just conclude, Honorable Jama?
I'll leave this issue. I want to ask Public Works, if a compliance, I think we've all lamented at the issues and, you know, the not following the health regulations and. I wanted to ask, if a compliance or a prohibition notice were to be issued, as in like tomorrow, how many of your offices would close down?
Public Works? So if you are not prepared for questions, let me assist you. You can request the committee to detail and come back to us. But if you are clear, so that you are not going to respond on matters that you have no authority on. Okay, I can see that you are struggling there, but I wanted to assist the meeting so that we don't corner you on certain issues that you can respond. But it's an important question, a comment that has been made.
No, thank you very much, Honorable Chair, for that. And that's why we are looking at each other. Absolutely, we are not yet ready with that information. We'll definitely provide it. And I think it's in sync with what I said, that we will provide a comprehensive report. It will definitely include that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Jama. DDG Mavuso, this is a matter I wanted to comment on Eastern Cape.
Yes, no, thanks, Chair. No, I just wanted to deal with quickly this issue of Fleet Street. In terms of communication, I personally communicated a lot on the relocation, particularly on the local Umhlobo and True FM and Teledispatch. But I think the issue of the rationale, and Honorable Chama will appreciate the fact that, Chair, we're dealing with the dignity of people here. What was happening there was quite not correct, as PMS said, the security issues and the Director of Finance, and also ablution facilities, parking. Fleet Street is a very busy area. So in order to protect people's assets and also to enable that clients, our staff, also able to have a conducive environment to work in and be able to do other business. So that's a rationale, but also the savings that we're making is huge in terms of money, in terms of the payment. I thought I should really deal with that. The issue around meeting the targets that Honorable Mohale was raising, Honorable Mohale, with the targets that we set as a department, we're basing it on the available resources, both financial and human resources. We will not set targets with the numbers that we don't have. Hence, if you look at a bed target, for example, in terms of 30 days, it has been shrinking, not only because of the resources, but also the availability of beds. In the birth rates are declining across the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Hala.
Thanks, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, allow me to combine the three departments. My observation, Honorable Chair, is that these three departments don't have a challenge on vacant posts because they are working as normal. They can't say, no, we need this number to fill these posts. Because in our last session with Limpopo and Mpumalanga, Honorable Mtise did raise this, that you are saying you've got this number of vacant posts and you end up there full stop. What are you doing about those vacant posts? Did you ever ask for permission to advertise or more budget? You are quiet on that and you are not going anywhere if you don't come out to say, no, these are our challenges. Or DG, let's close these two offices completely because we don't have personnel to run the offices. So that's where my problem is. Can I go to Public Works? Public Works, you are quiet on time frames in all these offices you were talking about, poor conditions and so on. You don't attach time frames to address these. So we'll sit here and say, okay, they've noted, maybe they will fix them sometime next year. With Mtata Regional Office,
I don't have a problem, Honorable Chair, with it because from Tata Regional Office to Tata Plaza is less than 500 meters. So people can walk. And people from different areas traveling to Tata, it's a walking distance to the Plaza Mall because that office indeed is a heritage site and you can't do anything to expand it. With Hemingway's one, it's 5.2 kilometers from the original office to Hemingway's. So our people are paying twice from their homes down Hemingway's. It's worse with the one in Port Elizabeth, Bay West. It's 13.2 kilometers from city center to there. And I'm saying, Honorable Chair, we are not assisting our people, otherwise we are just suffocating them. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much. Public Works, let's start with Public Works. If you want to comment.
Yes, thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson and Honorable Member. On the issue of time frames was a bit difficult because if you look at the different, I would say, line items, they differ because others are about the renewals, others about going outright procurement of a lease, and so on. So it was just a number of those things. We did not provide that, but once again, I think as part of our comprehensive report, we'll have to go into those issues and provide timelines. My colleagues are here, but I don't want to put them under the spotlight here in terms of whether they can provide that. We are coordinating that in head office, but surely we will put the timelines. I just needed to indicate that the issues are different and their time frames or timelines are also different, but we'll try our best, Chairperson, to put that
Let
in
me
our
ask
report.
differently. This report you've presented Home Affairs, where do you present it in terms of your scheduled session? And those that have authority to assist the department. I don't want to say that it appears that the report has been coordinated when we were invited to Home Affairs Portfolio Committee. I don't want to say like that, but I'm saying, given what Mr. Ngasana has raised, that a time frame of 15 months or years, something like that. Yes. Where, or maybe the DG, let me leave Public Works, maybe you'll answer it later. Where do you present this report when Home Affairs has challenges? Because if you have that line of reporting, that question of Honorable Hala may not, it could have been easy for the department to say, look, we had a problem in Lewahomo office, and these are the issues and the time frame that's been reported to for example, in 2020, and the time frame to that point we've dealt with it. We have an office there in Makwarele that is supposed to be concluded 4 years ago, I think, the big office. All members of the committee went there. I'm just giving an example so that we are clearer on the, because already I think it's clear, members of the committee are clearer in terms of the gaps between Home Affairs and Public Works. My question is, where do you interact on the work of the department infrastructure with the department? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. We have what we call, that happen at a regional level, client forum meetings, where you would have a portfolio manager having discussions with the relevant personnel in the region from the client department. And I think if you maybe listened to Mr. Ngasana's report, he is aware of the issues. It's not that the issues are not known. The challenge is the time it takes to resolve the issues. So that is the biggest issue, but with the regional managers that are here, all regional managers have a responsibility to hold regular client forum meetings so that their clients are kept up to date where there are challenges and where issues are taking longer to resolve, and even at a head office level. That is why we have Ms. Manini, Ms. Duman. She's the portfolio manager, so she would engage with the relevant person at the client department so that we solve the issues. The biggest challenge, Chairperson, it is not, in my view, a communication. It is around the processes and timelines that we take to resolve the issues that are there.
Honorable Bolman. Sir, are you done, Honorable Hala?
Honorable Chair, the last one, Western Cape. The last one, Western Cape, what happened to Ms. Espin, who fell in one of our health facilities and injured her back?
Honorable Member, thank you. I wanted to, Chair, to just comment on the comment from the Honorable Member on staffing as well. I know he mentioned it from a provincial, I know DG can speak to that, but if I can start with that, for example. Honorable Member, I don't think any PM would sit here and say we have enough staff. We are part of, we have a provincial management forum, we have a chairperson who sits on the staffing committee of the department. The PMs attend the departmental management committee that DG says. We attend the budget committee that CFO presents and will show us the budget cuts from Treasury and then how that affects our posts. And we constantly make inputs. It's just because whenever our compensation budget decreases, we cannot fill posts. But we are so used to, as PMs, to find ways to make services happen. DG and DM spoke about voluntary overtime, about staff going the extra mile, Honorable Member. We've learned that the budget we have, and DM said the cap, we learned to live within that cap, reprioritize, reallocate staff, and just try and manage, and also have the mobile unit whenever we see there's a problem coming now, we bring in the mobile team to help. So at the moment, we are just trying to manage the situation that we have been dealt with, Honorable Member. But I just wanted to say that PMs are fully aware of, and we participate in any decision on staffing within the department. On the lady who got injured now, she first lodged a claim against the department, but because we are only we're renting the building. The claim had to go to the landlord, and in this case, the landlord is the municipality. So she then, instead of suing the department, she went and took a case with the municipality. Unfortunately, I'm not sure, because it's a case between the municipality then and this particular individual. It had no effect on Home Affairs. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Bolman.
Thank you very much, Chair. I would, again, obviously, because I come from the province, I would like to focus my questions primarily on the KZN province, and also given the scale of the province and the pressures reflected in the presentations. My first question is, obviously, KZN is the second largest province in the country with a population of over 12 million people, and it's a very large operational footprint compared to other provinces outside of Gauteng. From the presentation, it appeared that the province is roughly double the population of the Western Cape, but significantly fewer officials. I think it was about a third of the amount of officials. Given this disparity, how is the staffing shortage currently affecting service delivery across the province, particularly in high-volume offices like Umgeni Road? I suppose we've got Commercial Road as well. Or in the more rural parts of KZN where we don't have shopping centres and banks, so where the citizens rely heavily on in-person services. And has there been any engagement, which I'm assuming there would have been, but I think I would like to find out what has the response been from the national level in terms of prioritising the filling of critical posts, the frontline posts, again, in the rural areas or in offices like Umgeni Road, where there's a massive demand for services from the province. Can I carry on? Okay, thank you. Again, when we were reviewing the immigration statistics, I noted that there's a number of inspections, arrests, deportations, but they seem to be relatively modest. And the reason I'm referring to this is obviously we just recently had the statistics from the Department of Education about the undocumented children that are currently in the schools. And based on that, I mean, if we had to look at it person by person, we have one child and potentially one adult. What are the challenges? I mean, obviously, the foreign nationals may be significantly higher than the current enforcement figures. And what I'm saying is that there seems to be, I mean, the deportations to Lindela were 2,000 odd, where we're sitting with 13,000 potentially in one province. What are the current immigration, do the current immigration inspectorate resources realistically match the scale of this challenge? I'd just like to have an idea. And then the last one is our friends at the DPWI, again, sorry. Obviously, I'm not going to rehash what our colleagues have spoken about, but number one, I would like to know, how did we enter into a lease agreement of 500,000 Rand a month? Coming from a property background, I think even that, if we have to look at market-related costs, and how much longer do we have in terms of that lease agreement? And then the second one to them is, has the department undertaken an exercise where the department has compared maintenance on their freehold buildings, obviously that we as a country own the buildings, versus what the commercial rentals are? Because I mean, the commercial rentals are vastly more expensive and of a premium value in compared. I'd like to know if we've done it from a Rand value perspective. And then another one I would like to know is, how often are leased home affairs buildings inspected to ensure that landlords are meeting the maintenance obligations? And these would have again been included in the lease agreement when the lease was signed up. So what are we doing to make sure that these people are upholding their end of the bargain? And then finally, what service level agreement standards, if anything, exist for repairs once a problem is reported? So obviously we hear that the department has said that they've contacted DPWI many times, but nothing happens. So is there a current SLA that if there's an issue that is brought up, that we have a 1 day, 2 day, 1 year sort of turnaround time strategy? Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, KZN, PM.
Thank you very much for the questions. With regards to the staffing capacity, we are confirming that we are at 33% as the province, and it is really strenuous for the province, basically, to try and meet all the service demands. But however, as and when we get an indication from the staffing committee on the availability of budget for some posts to be funded, I, as a provincial head, I would know the offices that are really bleeding, and therefore would identify some of those offices that, of the posts that would have to be funded, because as we are saying that there would be vacant positions, but they would not necessarily be funded, but they would be funded based on the staffing committee recommendation. So when I will get that kind of an indication, I would be able, I'm always able to say that particular office do need that we capacitate it, but it is a little bit of a difficult situation, and we are trying our best with the limited resources that we have to try and meet the service demands. With regards to the issue of the undocumented foreign nationals in the province, the capacity that we have in terms of the immigration officers is not at the level where we would have loved to have it. But however, the department is also focusing into that, as I've indicated, that I'll be getting an additional 10 immigration officers that would be posts that are going to be advertised as approved by the staffing committee. So we are gradually moving in that particular area. So the capacity has not been enough, but we've been doing so much work around the area of immigration. With the undocumented foreign nationals, especially in the schools, we have not been going to schools to do some raids in the schools. However, the Department of Education, we have had a roundtable discussion with the Premier of the province, where we have been discussing this issue of the undocumented learners in the schools and the parents and their parents. And the Premier was indicating that we need to ensure, Department of Education needs to ensure that it works together with the department, our department, to ensure that they become, they are able to ensure that they confirm that the parents of the kids that are brought to school do have necessary documents to be in the country. So there is a work in progress where we are engaging with the other stakeholders to try and deal with that particular issue. So I think that is those are my responses, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Public Works.
Thank you, Chair. I'll respond to the issue of the rental. I want to believe this is associated with the building at Mkungundlovu. It's the rental, total rental per month. The rental is 195 square meter, per square meter. It's not 500. The statement here, it says that include parking. Probably you multiply that 195 with the square meters, then you get the rental. Under Mkungundlovu on number 5. So we're not paying 500 per square meter, Chair. It's 195 per square meter. Thanks.
Chair.
No, I'm done with my question.
Come back, I'll come back to you. Yeah. Is there any? You're fine.
No, I'm still a little unsure of that, and I think maybe we can discuss it later, but for the benefit of my colleagues, when you take on a rental, it's the full amount, the full value of whether under roof is 195 per square, but then obviously what else is being paid to bulk it up by the extra 300,000 rand. I mean, how are we getting to that end figure? Because I mean, obviously 195 rand per square meter is under roof. What else is there then? Because I mean, 500,000 rand rental per month, I could get a whole building and I'm schlanga for that. So if I'm looking at market-related costs, I would like to know that a small rural town in KZN versus an upmarket commercial city, I mean, you know what I'm saying, like I'm schlanga, there's just, you can't compare the two, it's impossible. So I'm just trying to, in my mind, understand how do we get to the 500,000, because that is a lot per month out of the coffer. Thank you.
You can proceed and then she'll come in.
No, thanks. This is in Pietermaritzburg, where there's an issue of monopoly in terms of the accommodation. So you take 195, you multiply by the square meters, and it should be roughly around 2,000 square meters. Then you also pay for parking as well. So the total sum per month will then give that 500,000. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. To add to what the regional manager was saying, or to answer to what the Honorable is asking, we basically base our rentals on SAPOA rates and the market-related guidelines. So basically, there is a benchmark of how far we can go. But like we said, the Pietermaritzburg is mainly owned by one person, and there's monopoly, and hence we're saying the scarcity of commercial properties. When we talk about scarcity of commercial properties, we basically say, look, on a face value, a public member can see that there's buildings, but I mean, if we're looking for 2,000 square meter ratio with 5 parking compliant building, when you go out on market, you find that you can't source that, it's not there. So it's not like the entire town does not have commercial properties, but it does not have commercial properties that we have to match and place with the needs of the client. So it's one of those challenges we have, hence we will over and over talk about scarcity of commercial properties. Or even if you have, you may find that it's a property that is not compliant, that is not in a secure location, and therefore we just thrown off the market. This applies also to the issue that we talked about on Pinetown. Pinetown is an industrial area.
for over the years, while we've talked about Pinetown for over 15 years, is because there isn't much that we could get that is, could match and placed with the needs of Home Affairs.
Noted, thank you, Almuros.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the presenters. And first of all, congratulations on your overachievement on your Smart ID application targets. I think it's quite a substantial overachievement. And what it shows is that the department is starting to win the war against system offline. And so congratulations on that, as well as every single province meeting your immigration enforcement targets. So exceeding the number of operations that are being carried out to go and find illegal immigrants and take them to task, and then also achieving 100% across the board in processing them. I think it's a tremendous tribute to what was referred to over here as staff that are highly motivated, staff that are motivated to do their jobs and that are going the extra mile. And Chair, we have to support them, Chair. I agree 100% with the honourable member behind me in terms of the timelines. So I think it's very important that we now take this session, we look at what's going on, and that we are able to go to our different areas and see, have these promises been kept? So I'd also like to see a report serving to this committee with the timelines for each and every one of those interventions, Chair. And I'd like to know when we can reasonably expect that. My other question then is on and it touches on what my colleague asked on SLAs. Because if there's no timeline, I also want to get an understanding of what the SLA is between Public Works and the service provider. In terms of providing a building, and it was mentioned there, you're paying a premium price, somebody's providing a compliant building, but it's not happening. So what is the SLA in place with the service provider? Because at the end of the day, the DG is responsible. The DG of Home Affairs is responsible in terms of the Occupational Health and Safety Act at the end of the day. So you're actually putting him at risk if there is no SLA, and penalties for compliance. So please give us some details on that in terms of between Home Affairs and DPWI and service providers. Then in terms of the LRB backlogs, so what one imagines could be happening is that there's a lot of focus on the smart IDs and the 30 days, and then that leaves little resources to handle things like late registration of birth. And I think as we see the bank branches rolling out, taking load off the offices, there's possibly going to be more resources available for that. But my question at the moment, it's raised here about the DMO having to approve these applications of persons that are 15 years and older, but there's tens and thousands of them, and the offices in KZN and Eastern Cape, they're not reducing the numbers in a year. So you'll see the opening balance and the closing balance is the same, even though they're doing work. So the DM mentioned something about regulations, but what is going to be done to reduce that number? Because it seems like the efforts at the moment is just stabilizing the backlog. Then for KZN, you speak about the lack of staff at hospitals. I'd just like to understand what the timeline and plan is to fill those vacancies at hospitals. I think in a province like KZN, once the person leaves the hospital, it's less and less likely that they will come back and register the birth. So it's extremely important. I'd like to understand what the timelines are, and the plan is to fill those vacancies. Then in the Eastern Cape, we talk about 152% expenditure on transfers and subsidies. So this is normally leave gratuities if somebody now leaves the department. And I would imagine that you would have an idea of who's retiring. We all have an idea now of who's retiring in this room. But somehow the department must know these persons are at retirement age, they're going to retire. This is the leave gratuity. But now we're sitting at 152%. So my question is this an indication of an aging workforce or people retiring early? Or is it just related to a high number of disciplinary exits? So if we can just get clarity on that. And then finally, Chair, for the Western Cape is known for its fires, but it's also known as the province of opportunity and jobs. And so it's not a surprise that a number of persons come down here, and the farming community is now inundated. And I was quite shocked to hear about the amount that has been or the fine that has been levied on employers that employ foreign nationals. And you'd mentioned the amount of 2,000. My question is that 2,000 charged again and again, so if there's a repeat offender, or does that amount go up? Because I think, Chair, it's something we need to look at in terms of the review on the white paper on citizenship immigration, and really looking as a committee to see whether we can intervene in that space, because that fine is clearly not going to be a deterrent to employers. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I think we can start with the PM, Western Cape, if there's a comment.
Thank you, Honourable Russ. Fines is within the Immigration Act. It's regulated. Can't remember. I think it's section 43 that, but I'll undercouldn't. Let me not mention the section that indicates a fine or imprisonment for an employer that employs somebody illegally. But that decision is with the magistrate. So we will bring the employer in front of the magistrate, and our case will indicate the number of persons he's employed, him or she has employed illegally. The magistrate then sets the fine. If it's a repeat offender, again, we can't determine as Home Affairs ask for a fine. It's how the prosecutor would argue the case. They would argue the case as a repeat offender and probably argue for imprisonment. The only thing that will work is not money, and for my view, it's imprisonment. But we haven't yet gone that way, even though the Act makes provision for a fine or imprisonment. I think the only deterrent would be if we have this campaign and we clamp down and we have some employers imprisoned, put in jail for a number of years. Thank you.
Thank you, Western Cape.
Thank you, Chair. You've mentioned the issue of LRB backlogs, particularly with KZN indicating in their presentation that one of the efforts to bring down the backlog is through creating proxies, which then means that the DMO will then have a proxy to assist, which would then be a level lower than the DMO. So it can actually then address the burden on the DMOs. So currently, that has been the proposal. However, that cohort still, as you've seen in our presentations, still remain high. Now, with the 152% expenditure on transfers and subsidies, with Eastern Cape particularly, it's multiple issues: the aging workforce, early resignations, as well as the 6 that will also be exiting the department at the end of March, which would be the early retirement program. So those are some of the pressures that put the burden on our budget. But particularly the aging workforce, it's one of the factors. Yes, thanks.
KZN.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. In respect of the hospital clerks, as we call them, the situation is that there are no vacant positions. These are new posts that need to be created, because as we roll out to an individual hospital, there need to be a creation of a post to support that connectivity into that particular hospital. So as and when there is an indication of the available funding for such, we are also raising our hand as KZN and saying, please consider us in terms of ensuring that these posts become funded. They've never existed, they've never been funded before, so they are not vacant and are funded. So as we move along, we actually request that they create posts for us in those particular hospitals. But what we have put in place is not something that can be sustainable over a period of time. As I've indicated, that we have put in the roaming model, where we are trying to provide vehicles to ensure that we cover each and every hospital where we are actually supposed to catch early birth registration. So that is how we are doing it at this particular moment. And so we are always raising our hand as a province to say we really need some kind of assistance as and when there is an indication of some funding from National Treasury that has come into the department. With regards to the late registration of birth, in terms of the numbers that are high, as I indicated that As a province, we have agreed that we are proxifying, and the DMOs are saying that they will be up to the task in terms of ensuring, because they've always been part of the panel that would sit under my chairpersonship, so they would understand exactly how we're supposed to do it. Whilst the issue of the regulations is being looked at in terms of the new process that needs to be put in place to try and ensure that we can decrease the numbers. So as I've indicated, as of now, we are moving forward in terms of the proxy kind of arrangement to try and reduce the numbers in the province. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, PM. Last lot.
Chair, just to follow up, so we're saying we're moving now on that, or is it something that's coming in a few months? And then the other, sorry, yeah.
Thank you, through you, Chairperson. We've had a meeting with the DMOs, and we have agreed as from the 1st of April, we are moving with this kind of arrangement, and it has been agreed by all of us. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable Ross. Mpofu, the last one, then I will invite the executive.
Okay, thank you very much, Chair. Though the 7 minutes is too small, Chair. I wish we had more time, especially the culprit. Our culprit is the Department of Public Works. But I'm glad, Mr. Mngabe, you've answered the question that I have. I was going to read you this complaint about Umngeni large office. The horrendous abuse that you're doing to those females, only females that are in immigration there, is shocking. Luckily, when you were answering one of our colleagues, you said there is 10 more immigration officers that are coming. When are those immigration officers coming? The timelines now. Because here, these ladies have written a complaint, I don't know how many times to you, and you haven't responded to it. They complain about difficult working conditions, sinuses, bullying, sexual comments, harassment, resisting detention, and even resisting to go inside the van. They walk through the tunnels with males, foreign males. You don't give them the, what do you call these things, Zogbopa, what do you call them? Abo Zankosi, what do you call them? You don't give them that, you don't give them the spray, anything, and they are exposed to difficult conditions. They say we walk through tunnels alone with sometimes 30 male deportees to court. So many instances we get stuck at court after long hours of waiting and finishing after 4 o'clock, where all SEPS courts orderly have all long gone. We struggle in many possible ways where we were never issued with handcuffs, pepper spray, just minimum restraining force. And then it's worse on dangerous vehicles that these ladies you're giving them. Sometimes I think they said one of the vehicles that they drive, they go with, is not even certified to be on the road. One of the most pressing issues pertains to vehicles we are obliged to use for transporting detainees. The vehicles are very old, poorly maintained, and not roadworthy. That's what you do to them. They sometimes even ask for help from SEPS or Metro Police to use their vehicle. Difficulty in detaining deportees. The process of detaining, deporting and the foreign nationals has become increasingly challenging. The lack of proper holding cells in our department. Worse on the uniform issuance, we have never been issued with a full set of uniforms, no boots, no shoes. Emotional and psychological conditions that we work under. I'll send you this complaint, but I don't know why will I send it, because they've sent it to you many times and you've never attended to. So on this one, when are we getting those 10 immigration officers that you said they are coming to relieve pain from these days? Actually, they want to resign. They're left now to resign here because they don't know where to go.
No, thank you very much. I think this has come through as a parliamentary question which we have responded to. I think the DDG can confirm that we have given explanation to some of the issues that are being raised in this meeting. So, but the issue here is that the officials that have to some of the issues that are being raised in this meeting. So, but the issue here is that the officials that are there, those that have been in the department for a little bit of a long time, had been issued with uniforms, and they do have. And the issue of replenishing the uniform is ongoing, as it's always managed from head office. And the second part of it, those that had been in the department for some time as well, with regards to the handcuffs and the pepper sprays and so forth, those they had been issued with those, but somehow they've lost them somehow, and we are also in the process, and that is also the procurement for such is done at head office level. We have submitted our needs as well to the head office, and that is the situation. You know, with regards to the vehicles, we have given the number of vehicles that are allocated to Umgeni office, and it may not be correct that all the vehicles are not roadworthy. As from the fleet of about 5 vehicles that are allocated to Umgeni, maybe one of them has got a serious problem in terms of being fit to be on the road, and my director of finance here can vouch that we've been repairing that car for quite some time. And in the new allocation of the vehicles, Umgeni is also going to be benefiting a vehicle which is a caged vehicle, which is new, and they've got also a benefit of utilizing the vehicles that are meant for deportation that are also in that office of Umgeni, because this deportation team is also operating from Umgeni, and they've got access to those vehicles that I indicated that they've been procured and they are still new. So that is how we're dealing with those issues. I think that is how far I can go in terms of that. But we did receive a parliamentary question raising the same issues that are being brought in by the member here, and we have responded accordingly, and the TTG has taken care of that one. Thank you.
The filling of the 10 immigration officers, when is it happening, Mr. Mngaba?
My indication was that it has been approved by the staffing committee for advertisement. So we just are waiting for the head office to advertise now. So it has been approved from the staffing committee level.
The approximate wait for those ladies, should it be now 6 months or more?
Just wait a bit, Honorable Nguban. Who's the chair of the staffing committee?
The Director General.
Oh, it's the DG?
The Director General,
okay.
yes.
All right.
Those ladies, how long must they carry on with this torture that they are going through? Sexual harassment and bullying. Is it the next 6 months now on their own, waiting for that other 10 colleagues of theirs to join them? How long the process will take?
It may not necessarily be true that there are no males in Umgeni. There's 4 males that are in that office of Umgeni, out of an establishment of about 10 officials in that office. So it happens sometimes that only females would be escorting, based on the fact that maybe the males are focusing on the other area, on the other issues. But it's not necessarily correct that it's all the time it will be only females. Males are also part of the of a day-to-day work in that particular office. So if I were to try and answer how long is it gonna take, I would say that once the 10 has been advertised, it normally takes about 2 months for us to fill the position. So I would say in the next 2 months we will be filling some of those positions.
Okay, let's come to another one. The complaint again at Jozini sub-region. It's worse there as well. The key issues is smart ID challenges, delays, and issues pertaining to obtaining smart IDs, non-functional home affairs offices, network issues that are always down, travel burden and distances. In Gwavuma or Pongola, the old women are paying around 300 Rand as a return trip, 90 kilometers that they travel. Mbazwane, 70 kilometers. Hluhluwe, 120 kilometers. Endumo, Pongola, 60 kilometers. Mbazwane, 50 kilometers. Hluhluwe as well. Here is another challenge, Ejozini, of home affairs posts that is inaccessible. Old people, pensioners, have to travel long distances just to access the home affairs offices. In this space, what are you going to do about it as well?
Yeah.
In that area of Umhlabia Lingana, honorable member, I've got 3 modernized offices. One in Pongola, the second one is at Shushuwe, the third one is at Mbazwana. That's towards the border of Mozambique at the bottom. The rest of these other offices that you're referring to in Gwavuma and Jozini are not modernized offices. However, we do have a mobile truck that is trying to service in that particular area. Recently, we have conducted a high-impact project in that particular area where we assisted over 8,000 applicants with the IDs, and we ensured that those IDs were taken back to the community in that particular area. So the issue of, if it's about getting into a green barcoded ID, they go to either Pambanana, which is also servicing the area of Ngwavuma, or they go to Jozini. But for the smart card, it is, we do agree that yes, they travel quite a little bit long distances because they have to go, either to go to Hluhluwe or to Pongola or to what's the name, to Mbazwana. We have submitted this Jozini as one of the priority offices that needs to be modernized, and we are still awaiting for the department to get to modernize that particular office. That would cater especially for the community within the area of Ingwavuma down to Pambanana, because as you go down in Mbazwana is covering that particular area, and Pongola is also modernized, and people are accessing the services from that side.
So you haven't thought of even providing mobile offices, because they're complaining that distances are too far. They're taking the same pennies that they get from SASSA grant, 200, 300, and they're spending on traveling when they go to your Home Affairs offices. It's far from reach. So haven't you looked at the other alternative of closing the gap of accessibility of Home Affairs by mobile transport trucks to be closer to them so that they access the services of Home Affairs?
Honorable Member, as I've indicated, we've got a mobile truck that is based at Pambanana. And Pambanana is servicing the areas of Ngwavuma and Jozini. So that mobile truck is available, and it has got a program of some outreaches that they normally do for those particular areas. As I've indicated, that as you move in towards Zululand, you would then have Hluhluwe, it's modernized, and then you've got Pongola, it's modernized, and you go further down, you would then have Mbazwana, it is also modernized, to try and close the gap for the areas of particularly Jozini and Ngwavuma in Pambanana, which is less than 50 kilometers from Jozini. They are being assisted by the mobile truck, which is based in Pambanana.
Okay, one of...
I know I'm giving the last lot. I know you have made a disclaimer that 7 minutes is more. I think you're preparing me, but I'm now questioning you that it's your last lot, yeah.
So you're adding more 7 minutes, Chair.
No, I'm saying you're finishing minutes, yeah, so you know I can take it to stop.
Okay, all right. My other concern, Mr. Mwabe, you heard when the Eastern Cape and the Western Cape was presenting your state of readiness for the local government election. On your presentation, you pointing us to around July, August, and others have already done something in the readiness around March or so, the Western Cape and the Eastern Cape. But you, as the biggest province, you far behind on the state of readiness. And what must be delivered before June in terms of backlog clearance and ID collection as well as LRB acceleration to avoid now on the last meeting compressing critical parts item into Q3 when now it's time where we're closer to the election. As the biggest province, you're supposed to be one that is ahead in terms of planning for the local government election.
Thank you, Chair. As I've indicated that we do have got programs to go to the schools, that is basically through our mobile trucks. The programs are aimed at ensuring that those first-time applicants for the IDs and that would be eligible to vote in the coming voter registration as well as elections. We are continuing, it's a continuous program that we have. We have those programs where we go to the schools and ensuring that we deliver the IDs back to the schools. And secondly, the issue of us having given the proxy to the DMOs to be able to assist in terms of backlog reduction for those people who are 15 years and above and they do not have certificates but they are eligible to vote. We are saying that through the proxy, let us start that as we've indicated as from the beginning of next month. When we were talking about the July aspect, we were referring to the time when we'll be starting to engage with different stakeholders now when we have got a clear direction in terms of when are we going for the elections. But the program in terms of ensuring that eligible voters do have documents is part of our daily work in terms of the programs, especially from the mobile outreach.
Thank you very much, members, for questions and recommendations and comments. Is there any comment from Eastern Cape PM or your team that they want to, a final comment?
Chair, from my side, I'm covered. Thank you.
From your team?
Ma'am?
No, nothing further. Thank you, Chair.
KZN?
Mr. Singh?
Thank you, Chair. Honorable members, I think we need to take note of that 500,000 rand building in Pietermaritzburg. We don't have drinking water in that building, and we're paying that rent monthly. It's been reported to Public Works. Nothing is happening. There was a lab test done in 2020, February, where Public Works tested the water, and it was unfit for human consumption. We've been trying to get this matter sorted out. We've been buying in water for the staff, for the clients. It's costing us a lot of money. Public Works had a meeting with the landlord, but nothing comes of it. We just simply cannot get out of that building. There may be bigger forces at play to keep us in that building. Maybe you should dig deeper as a committee, because I'm sure it may not only be our building, it may be other provinces as well. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Western Cape, is there any other comment from your team, PM?
I'll ask Director of Finance. A coordinator. Nothing else, Chair.
Public Works, any comment? Last comment?
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. I think on the only matter maybe we did not address was the letters that have been written to us. We have received some of that correspondence. It is being processed to look at some of the projects that the client has requested that they be transferred. So there is a discussion on those. We will then be engaging with the colleagues from Home Affairs on all of these issues, but generally we do note and are aware of some of the pressing challenges, and we are trying to intervene on some. Those others may be difficult. We are not resolving yet, but we are working on the plan. And I think, Honorable Chair, at an appropriate time, maybe the DG as well as the Minister will also engage on other issues pertaining to projects that we are doing as a department to try and relieve the situation. We are aware of the challenges. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. Is there any comment from Public Works? I'm sure that was the last comment.
Thank you, Chair. I think the only one that we missed it is the SLA. We do have the SLA with the Department of Home Affairs that is also accompanied by service delivery standards, but we do not have the SLA with the service provider because we have the lease agreement, which outlines even the punitive measures in term if there is any defaulting.
Thank you. I will invite DDG's Home Affairs. DD Sigama, is there any comment?
Just one comment, Chair. Chair.
Okay, let me first exhaust this item. I know why, and I'll come to members if you have comments. DD Sigama?
Thanks so much, Honorable Chair, members of the Portfolio Committee. Now, there were 3 issues that I was requested to really comment on. One was the issue of the DNA that DM spoke about, wherein I would like just to add by saying that we are busy concluding our memorandum of understanding with the Department of Health. Part of the discussion was to make sure that they then engage National Health of Laboratory Services to look into the issue of DNA, so that we also cater for indigent people who are unable to do that. But from the Home Affairs side, we have also indicated that we would really encourage communities out there to register birth within the period of 30 days. Because if you do that, that then eliminates most of the issues, particularly on supporting documents, because when you register within 30 days, then you don't need all those other documentation. But failure to do that, then that requires us to jump into issues of those children that have stayed without birth certificate from 31 days to 1 year, 1 year to 14 years. That then requires us to then put other remedial actions like teams to then interview them to find out why they were unable to register birth within a period of 30 days. So in terms of the LRB's chairperson, as you have indicated, we are working closely with our legal services to review the regulations. We have indicated that indeed, through our discussions with them, that we are going to put stringent measures and also make sure that we relax issues of chairpersonship at the level of PM, so that it be reduced to DMOs, so that they chair those screening committees. Then that will then remove that backlog that PMs are experiencing at a provincial level. We also said we are going to automate our birth registration process, so that when the child is born, immediately prior to them being discharged at the health facility, that child should leave with a birth certificate. That will then ease the pain of late registration of birth, while we are dealing with the issue of review of regulations and so on and so on. We are now saying to Health Department that they need to give us more health facilities, that we increase connectivity throughout the country. And as and when the child is born, then we will work closely with them to make sure that that child really leaves the health facility with a birth certificate. Those are parts of our plans that we are really going to look at. With the total number of health facilities connected now, we are saying that in the new financial year, we are going to make sure that we go back and make sure that we automate all of them. That will then also reduce LRBs, as colleagues have indicated. Lastly, Chair, there was an issue around green barcoded ID books that was raised here, that offices still have that. You'll recall that when we started our modernization in 2013, we focused more on our citizens to say, come and then apply for smart ID cards. Then gradually, as some of the members indicated, we then moved to other categories of issuance of IDs, such as permanent residents, as well as naturalized citizens. That has now reduced the burden of us issuing green barcoded ID books, because at the moment, really, we're just finalizing phase 2 to make sure that all categories of clients who are in need of our identity documentation, then they all should be issued with smart ID cards. So we're just finalizing our systems, and when the time is right, then we will be able to make that announcement for clients to then be issued with smart ID cards. I think that will then assist us going forward. But lastly, on the green barcoded ID books, we are working on the destruction policy, which is at the last mile now, to make sure that they then include it into the automation stage, and that will then assist us in making sure that front offices should not keep green barcoded ID books in their offices. Because at the moment, our SOP says you then keep it for a period of 6 months, then after 6 months, you bring it to back office then keeps keeps it for a further 6 months, which will make it 12 months. After that, that document should be distracted. So we just want our IT to automate that so that automatically, as and when the age analysis shows that they've exceeded the period, that document should be distracted going forward. Thanks so much, Chairperson.
Thank you, TDG Sigama. TDG Mavus.
No, thank you, Chair. I think just in general, Chair, one of the things that was raised was around the strategy to relocate to the malls. In as much as we have identified that most of members of the public visit malls, our clients visit malls to shop and do other things. With Paywest, for an example, we negotiated lower rates with the taxi associations and to create easy access to that. We do believe that the people who go there to shop for food and other things are the same clients that Home Affairs is serving. I think the last point that was raised by my colleague from Public Works, Luyanda, is the Home Affairs existence for many years, that we do definitely need purpose-built facilities that are dedicated. But unfortunately, most of the infrastructure projects that were initiated have not seen the daylight. Those that have been finished, like Lusigisigi, like in Limpopo, where we opened, now I'm forgetting the town now. Mokopane, yes, those are type of facilities that we need, because obviously we don't want to be moving up and down all the time, because the shop fitting of any facility is costing us a lot of money, and we have to dismantle after 5 years, after 10 years, because we have to move. So we definitely don't want to be a tenant state. Thank you.
Members, is there any other comments before I invite DG? I'll start with Honorable Disemta, Honorable Khale, last Honorable Nguban, and Honorable Jama. Just a minute or so.
Thank you very much, Chair. I don't think the DPWI is doing justice to the committee. There is no single question that has been asked that they were able to answer directly. I'll make an example. There's a question that has been asked with regard to any penalties that are being posed to the landlords if they don't meet the required standard according to the contracts that they would have, the lease contracts. No response came forth. And all they do is to say they acknowledge the challenges and they are doing something. We have in the presence the portfolio manager specifically for Home Affairs. So where she is, she's supposed to be having a file on the offices that she's responsible for on Home Affairs. She must be able to go and peruse when members are lifting issues with particular offices and be able to say that this matter, this is what we are doing about it. It doesn't matter whether it has been long or not, but to keep on saying, we acknowledge we are doing something, we don't want you doing something. Tell us what exactly you are doing currently. Your answers are not satisfying, and I'm not sure why really you came to the portfolio committee and you are unable to answer us on specific questions that we are asking you. And they are based on the presentation that you have made with regards to these 3 provinces that we have focused on today. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Disemta. Honorable Khale.
No, thank you very much, Chair. Very quick, Chair. Mine is to say, Chairperson, perhaps we should have a much more regular interaction with the Department of Public Works from now on, until the issues that we have identified on the report with regards to the state and conditions of some of these offices are sufficiently addressed, so that we are able to keep track of the progress, whether there's any progress that is being made or there's nothing that is happening in that space. Mr. Ngasana highlighted earlier on that for 15 years, they've been asking one thing from the Department of Public Works, and it's still not resolved. So we need a much more, in fact, next time, Chairperson, let's have the minister here. Let's have him here, so that he can hear exactly what we have to say, and there must be a task team set up within the department that is going to address these issues raised by Home Affairs, because we can't have Home Affairs offices that are falling apart. Home Affairs is a frontline service department, so we can't allow that, Chair. So it's my proposal, Chair, that going forward, let's have It can be on a quarterly basis, but it must be a regular interaction between ourselves and the DPWI. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Hale, Honorable Ngubane.
Yeah, Chair, what I would request, number one, is there a way we can find some mechanism, Chair? Remember, Home Affairs is a heartbeat of this country, so I don't know, there are departments that are treated like exclusion from budgetary constraint and cut, like the defense, intelligence, and others. Most of the things that are happening in this department are some of the horrendous things, are treasonous. They're contributing to the collapse of this country. We need to look at that, Chair, or how we can try negotiate probably at presidential level or wherever where we need to negotiate that the Home Affairs be included in those departments that needs not to be affected by budgetary cut and all those stuff. That's just the first one. And then the second one, Chair, I had a lot of questions for the other departments and the Department of Public Works. I'm requesting them to write them and send them to our Secretary AD and submit to them so that they are answerable. As like Honorable Mohale is saying, there are some of the procurement for the Department of Public Works that goes up to 15 years, repeated procurement that goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, no conclusion. And they've never answered those things. They spoke about procurement that goes for the past 15 years. They go advertise, cancel, go advertise, cancel, go advertise for years. So all those things, they didn't say a word on it. So that's a challenge. The culprit in all of this, we've been complaining about Home Affairs. Now we know where our major problems come from the Department of Public Works. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Ngubane. Honorable Jama.
Thanks, Chair. I think lastly from my side would just be towards the DG. I think just to understand if there's been any national service delivery review on the department in any time, in any recent times, and if you feel like there's space for that. And I'm saying this because a lot of the issues are province by province by province, the same issues over and over. So I wonder if Home Affairs is still fit for purpose in its current sort of how it works, how we want to deliver services. I mean, I don't think that in 2026 we should still be having backlogs of birth certificate registrations or collecting of smart IDs, and then our solutions are let's take it to a mall or let's get a kiosk at a Capitec. So I'm wondering if there's ever been that sort of review to say, is Home Affairs in its current way, or the way it works currently, is it still fit for purpose to deliver the services to South Africans? Thanks.
Thanks very much, members, for the comments and recommendations. I'll invite Dr. General.
Thank you so much, Chair, and thank you to the honorable members for the questions. And I think, Chair, let me start maybe with the one on elections, because some of the questions are cross-cutting. So the preparations have started, Honorable Ngubane, for the elections. I chair at the national level under Minister Tlhabisa, is the chairperson of the IMC that's preparing for the elections. Below Minister Tlhabisa, it's myself and the DG, Kokta, that have been driving the work around elections since last year already. So at an opportune time, Chair, I think it will be important for us to come to this committee and share with you the preparations that are underway for the elections. That committee comprises a number of government departments. It comprises the IEC, net joints, and other priority committees that are tasked to prepare for elections, for local government elections. You would have noted the IEC has already announced the first voter registration weekend, which is scheduled for the 20th and the 21st of June. Already that's part of that preparatory work. So we can come and do that. So there's a lot of work that's been done already. And similarly in KZN, for example, you might wish to share at another time, PM, what work has been done, as you are seeing in the other provinces, with regards to ensuring that people have access to Home Affairs offices. We've actually been even opening on some of the weekends that are designated. So we should be able to come back and do that as part of the critical path
that the IEC has already developed. I think, Honorable Ngubane, on the issue that you have raised with regards to the challenges that the colleagues face at Umgeni, it's not a matter that we must dismiss. It's a matter that I think Acting DDG HR, Charlotte, you might want to look at it because it also affects the tools of trade that those colleagues require, and we'll certainly attend to it. I'm actually surprised that there's an issue around vehicles because we've just given them new vehicles for all provinces. All of them have received new vehicles, including the ones for deportations. Let me then, just as I try and wrap up, Chair. So the issues that have been raised are into 4 categories. It's resources which will be split into capacitation and then funding. And then, of course, the last one is IS related, which relates to system downtime. On that one, Chair, we've already started some good work, working with the South African Revenue Services. You would have noted the system stability that we've had over the last few months. It's because of an investment that we're making at BVR. To a large extent, the system has been stable, including the installation of batteries, backup facilities. So that work is continuing, including a procurement of a massive generator that will be at BVR to ensure that we remain online throughout. Now, on issues related to what Honorable Mohale has raised, I think the colleagues from Public Works have already responded. You will recall, Chair, in the 6th administration where you led, together with the chair of the Portfolio Committee on Public Works, a joint portfolio committee that was tracking all the commitments that were made. It might be opportune for this committee to consider that so that we come back and account to that committee as well. At the highest level, I recall we had a ministerial meeting that was led by Minister Ramokgopa and Minister Motsoaledi that was tracking the same issues. And then there was a DG to DG meetings that were also tracking the same issues. You are correct, Honorable Polman, with regards, if we are managing this huge asset of the state, this real estate, it needs to be looked after. That's the reality. We're not even on the prestige one, but that's the reality that it must be looked at. So we'll then look at that. Honorable Chama asked a question with regards to Hemingways. The reality is that the lease expired. Now, what is happening in East London is similar to what is happening in KZN, where one landlord is in control of all the buildings, and the state is the only customer. When that lease expired, we informed through the relevant processes, through Public Works, that we don't intend to stay at the same facility because, one, there was a prohibition order by the Department of Employment and Labor. I'm not sure how many of you have been to that office. People queue outside. We were getting weekly complaints led by the Premier himself and various stakeholders that we needed to relocate people that were queuing outside. So we need to do that. Litigation is still on. We won the first round on the basis that the court said there was no agency with regards to that matter. Minister of Finance was actually asking us, how did you unshackle yourself from those contracts? Because he's aware that a lot of departments are linked to that. So we just thought, let's highlight that, but the matter is not over yet. Now, you asked a question around service delivery review. There's actually a process that's led by the presidency around the NMOC process. That process is not complete yet. So maybe once that process is done, we might come back. Honorable Alala, you raised a very important issue. I think it's an observation that you said you have made around the vacant posts. So our staff establishment is supposed to be at around 18,000. We're sitting at around 7,400. On the 1st of June 2022, we were asked by, there was an urgent cabinet Likhutla, where each department was told to submit. It was called a banning platform. What are the 3 things that each department considers as part of that banning platform? We did submit the first business case, which in the 6th administration, we came to this portfolio committee and said we've submitted the first business case. Through the first business case, we were able to get 742 positions. These 3 provinces that are here, Eastern Cape received 80, that's my recollection. KZN, I think it was 91, and then Western Cape, it was 71. They were able to fill those positions. We then went again for the second business case, where we received about 449 positions. Again, Eastern Cape received 39, Western Cape 37, and KZN 43. If you look at the presentation by the PM, Eastern Cape, she's supposed to fill 16 positions. So you can't complain, PM, that you have got vacancies. So fill those vacancies that you have. It's the same for KZN, fill the vacancies that you have. Now, what we do with the staffing committee that I chair, including a representation from the provinces, they are represented by Mr. Matsau. We look at where are the pressing requirements, and then we allocate on the basis of that. The priority is always immigration, your hospital clerks, your mobiles, and civic services. Management is right at the bottom. They're correct to say they don't have vacancies, because our view is that it's the front office that requires more people rather than management. So I already urge the colleagues to really fill those vacancies to ensure that at least we continue to provide offices. But the reality is, Chair, as we embark on the bank expansion program, we might not need some of these offices. Of course, in the deep rural areas, we might still have to reconsider what sort of modalities we do, because this week alone, in Howick, in Pietermaritzburg, they should be able to access services, not only from Standard Bank, Capitec, African Bank. So we've got an agreement with about 8 banks that are all rolling out at the same time. And each one of them has different capabilities. Now, the good thing is that they're also creating jobs for themselves or for the country. And of course, they're also procuring equipment as compared to the previous model. So that's something that Public Works need to take note of. And then, of course, Chair, I think Honorable Ross, you raised the issue around lack of staff at hospitals, and that's a priority for us, to ensure that when we do sign the MOU with the Department of Health, which we are currently considering to deal, amongst others, with issues around access to data, we should have staff that service those facilities. So, Chair, let me pause here and thank all the members for the questions that were raised, but also wish Mr. Yusuf Simons well in his retirement. For sure, he'll volunteer to come and manage the queues outside Barak Street. Thank you, Chair.
No, thanks very much, DG, for that comprehensive report and briefing. And thanks, provincial managers and your team, for responding to interact with the committee. And thanks, Department of Public Works, the team, for responding to the issues. What it has assisted the committee, you have at least exposed the gaps on the ground, which we managed to interact with DG. And we think that as a committee that Public Works may need to up its game. But we'll recommend strongly that in the first quarter, the DG, you may need to go back with the Public Works and rework the presentation that deals with the time frame on specific areas. Your report also exposes of lease agreements that have been submitted to Public Works and not being authorized, something like that, for a period of time. So the report of Public Works does not give confidence in terms of how we think we must move faster. And we will employ on you, DG, now that you are here, that Minister Schreiber and his deputy Njabulo, Minister Macpherson and Deputy Zigalala, and the two Director Generals will come back to this committee around the issue of the Public Works, on the plan and also on the time frame and the difficulties that are associated with the issue of the infrastructure, so that we have a responsibility to pronounce ourselves as members of the committee clearly in terms of the program of government around the services that our people must receive. I've raised deliberate Public Works. At what point do you report to stakeholders that you've mentioned? And I'm sure the Deputy Minister, before he left here, he said he met with the Department of Public Works in KwaZulu-Natal and was promised that in 2 weeks' time, as a turnaround time, that office will be properly being done. And you came back saying, look, Mr. Ngasana knows about the program, this takes longer, and so forth and so on. So the technique of our communication and also our bureaucratic process need to align, DG. And we're not going to leave this matter to chance, because we have seen it ourselves. We've been exposed to the members of the community, the staff, in terms of the pressure that we've been facing. So collectively with the committee and yourself, our objective is to make sure that South Africans receive better service, and also in the infrastructure that is conducive for both those that are working, officials, and also a response for service. So we're going to call you back, DG, in terms of the Department of Public Works. They must go back and rework the program. The issue of the staffing, again, DG, when we call you back, at least there must be a time frame. It's not good that they must employ, they must just go and do PMs. There must be a time frame in terms of the adverts and how we're going to employ those that are funded, posts that are funded. We know that the finance budget were constraints, but priorities are important in terms of making sure that our planning cost is actioned. So even if you have left PM Yusuf, you must make sure that that plan, once the DG present here, we're clearer on the issues of the Department of Home Affairs. We have different experience on the ground. You find staff members are assigned to 4 or 5 responsibilities. We had a very difficult, bad experience in Groblersdal, including in Umtata, where we went there. So we need to reprioritize, but also with the planning that we need to deal with. I think DG will follow up on the matter that has been raised by Honorable Jama and Honorable Hala around the Eastern Cape. I think DG Mavuso and the EM may have grounded your motivation. It's a matter that the committee may need to also follow it up in detail, including the matter in KwaZulu-Natal, Umgeni. We know there may be other areas throughout the country, but we're picking up on the key issues that we need to deal with. I don't think we must ignore, DG, the complaint that has been raised by Honorable Ngubane around the environment of workers, whether they are abused or bullied, and this and that. It's a matter also that we'll follow up. We'll receive a preparation for the local government elections by the Independent Electoral Commission, jointly with the Home Affairs, on the work that is currently being engaged in terms of how they're preparing outside the process of the legislation that they'll need to bring to the committee. And is an area that we'll have to focus on. We think, DG, if we don't manage properly and be firm on public works, will be running a race to be failing the Department of Home Affairs. We want you to engage with the DG and the ministry in terms of power sharing, of transferring infrastructure work to the to Home Affairs. The buildings that of government are not utilized. We understand the issue of post office, but there must be mechanism to make sure that we strengthen that area. We can't invite Home Affairs in our office, in the committee all the time. They refer matters to Public Works of Infrastructure. So we know that the legislative issues around that area, but it's a matter that DG, you need to conference in detail with your counterpart and the minister and see how we resolve that matter. Members, I think we've dealt with all the issues. Our recommendations, we'll package them and make sure that the Ministry or the Executive, they receive the recommendations as part of accountability, but also tracking the issues that we've been dealing with. The DG is correct that by that time, with Minister Sputla, when we were still the head of the infrastructure unit, and Minister Mtwalit, we've been tracking these difficulties of the environment. The last point are Public Works, the offices that are not completed. I think there's Northwest and Limpopo, where the committee visited. It's supposed to be completed 4 years ago, I'm told. We interviewed even security people who were there. So we need that plan when we come back, DG, that these modernized offices may need to be responded to us. We must balance between the new focus in terms of modernization, but also with the ground challenges South Africans are facing. You can't always be on the TV and talk about modernization, whereas the ground does not respond to that. All of us will agree with that foresight that is being ran by the minister and the deputy minister. But we must balance with the work that's on the challenges that members of society are being complaining. The banks, DG, if you have looked on the apportioning, I see the Western Cape is mostly advanced in terms of the banking distribution. We may need also to balance how other provinces benefit from that front. And that plan in terms of implementation, the committee may need to be favored in terms of when are going to favor, where in the province, so that at least this program, members of the committee are able to appreciate their work. Members, thanks very much for the comments and also the interaction with the reports that have been presented. And thanks, DG, now that you're remaining here alone. But our remark that we've made when we're opening, we think that is the position of the committee. And we've observed certain areas that we may need to look at DG with your executive. The meeting stands adjourned. Thanks very much.